Blog Talk Radio.
Good afternoon. This is Lisa A. Snyder. You're listening to Losing Your Parents International Radio Show. I lost both of my parents to cancer at 22 and 27. I work to inspire others on my blog, losingyourparents.org, and journey through my own grief and healing process using creativity, self-expression, and I guess just going about learning it on my own. My intention is to always connect those of us who have lost our mothers and our fathers, or both parents, at any age through the arts, life experiences, looking inward and turning pain into something positive. I'm here to talk about stuff that's hard and ways you can move forward in your life and how you can get back to a happier place. So today I'm actually just going to be doing a live show. In the past I've actually recorded some thoughts and that I wanted to share, and I'm just going to wing it today. Hope you're on board with that journey. Normally, I am broadcasting live and sharing my recordings from Portland, Oregon. But this time, I'm actually on the East Coast. I'm in a town called Freeville, New York. We came to the East Coast for a wedding. My fiancée, Catherine, her cousin Janine, got married to her girlfriend, Sarah, and they had a really beautiful wedding, and it was a really special day, and so I figured I'm going to work, and I'm going to visit with people, rented a car, I've been driving all over the place, trying to balance work and seeing people. And, it's chosen family that I am seeing, and how important that chosen family is and has become in my life. Chosen family means anybody that you have chosen to feel or be like your family. Many times this is beloved friends, family friends that have been in your life for a very long time. I have some special people in my life that I love dearly. I have some mother and father figures, and that's a word and a term that, I use in a specific way in regards to people in my life. A mother or a father figure is someone who is not your mom or your dad, but they kind of offer a piece to the mom or dad puzzle for you. Like, there's no one that's going to replace your parents, but there are people in your life that they offer, maybe they offer motherly or fatherly advice. Maybe they come over and they help you fix things. Maybe they offer a piece of that puzzle. And that's actually become extremely important in my life. And it's pretty cool because I can have unlimited mothers and fathers now. I don't feel like I am limited by the thought that I had one mother and one father physically here. I believe in something outside of this physical world that we can't really exactly explain away or scientifically figure out. But I believe the universe is my mother and father. I believe that there are physical beings here that can be mother and father figures, especially when I don't have the mother and the father that I've always known. And so for me, it has helped immensely to find these, stumble upon them, or recognize them as they have come into my life. And one of them is a dear friend. Her name is Lori, and she is the mother of my friend Katie. And we have known one another since I was 16 years old, and I thought she was the coolest mom ever. I felt like I could talk to her and say anything, and she was very free-spirited and always listened, and it was something that was very important to me. I didn't get a ton of access to with my own parents, being able to just share freely feelings and thoughts and have no judgments around them. And so she was able to provide that, while I was growing up. And I remember that I also thought she was a free spirit because I came over one day and she was like topless on the deck. What a cool person. She feels like so free because this is her house. She can do whatever she wants. And I always felt like that was a safe place for me to go to. And I recognized that growing up, that was a safe place for me to be. And then eventually she met a guy named Jeff, and they ended up getting married, and I sort of inherited some stepsisters. And I always felt like Katie and Layla and Erin have always been my sisters. We've spent holidays together and birthdays, and they've really been there for me in my life in important times. And then when Jeff came along, he has Rachel and Jen and Mike, and I feel like this is my chosen family. I have several chosen families, and this is one of them, and a significant one because it's carried me throughout my whole experience here. And I will never forget that, I when my mom died, I went to Katie's house. She was living with her dad at the time, but I had went right to her house. And when it was time for my mom's funeral, I was slept at Jeff and Lori's. And they were totally there for me. They drove me there. They were and have been a complete support to my life, and I'm ever so thankful and grateful to them for all of the work that they didn't even know that they were doing to help me along the way. And so they were my first stop when I arrived here, and I had some time. Actually, I guess technically the second stop. I got to see my uncle and wish him a happy birthday and have some lunch with him, and my mom's brother, who is still living in the house that they were living in together when my mom transitioned. And then after I had lunch with my uncle, I went to see Katie and Katie and Erin and Lori and Layla and Jeff and Layla's husband Michael, and we all played games, and we wore hats, and we kind of celebrated my birthday early because it's coming up on October 15th, and we played 90s music, and I had the biggest smile on my face and inside my heart because this is the kind of birthday celebrations that I want. It's just, to be surrounded by people that I adore and that adore me. And the feeling was so intensely happy and joyful that in those moments, I did not miss my mom. I did not miss my dad. And I didn't feel empty. I felt really full. And I'm just so thankful for, they were capable of, getting together and really wanted to. I know sometimes, when someone kind of flies into town and you weren't really expecting them too far in advance, that can be challenging. But everybody was like, yep, this is what I want to be doing with my time. And I'm very conscious of how I spend my time, very conscious of it. This is one of the reasons why it's so important to me to work on myself and to do the work inside is because I don't want to spend a lot of time mourning. I don't want to spend a lot of time feeling super sad or depressed or anything like that. And so once I recognize that those feelings are coming up, I want to kind of give it a massage and figure out, not how do I make this go away, but how do I feel what I need to feel and then move on? Because feelings are energy, and they need to come in and then they need to leave. And I will talk about this a lot, but I highly recommend checking out the Sedona method. There's information on my website, losingyourparents.org. It is a way of moving through emotions, of asking yourself a set of questions so that you can move through that energetic pattern of emotions that come up until you feel like until you can get to a joyful place. Because joy actually has no limits, but lower energy feelings like sadness, anger, grief, and stuff like that, they feel very low. You actually are lowering your energetic field, and it's important to know how to move yourself through emotions. And so I definitely recommend the Sedona method, and so check it out on my website. I usually have it on the sidebar. You can also search on my site about the Sedona method. They've got a book that you can read. They have programs, and that's just one of the many resources that I've used to help get to a place of feeling more healed around my parents. I would like, and I think that birthdays and holidays and special days in general are real challenges for us who have lost parents. So what I'm doing for my birthday, I don't know what I'm doing on the day, and I would like to remind those of you who do not know is that my dad died the day before my birthday, the day before my 23rd birthday. And so my birthday not only reminds me that my parents aren't here, and that, but it also reminds me that my dad died around that time. And so my first step is to just stay really present, because in presence you can't like go forward into the future or backwards into the past. If you can find a way to be present in the now, it's really helpful for challenging times. I don't know what to expect for my birthday. I know what I've experienced, but I don't know, and I'll never know what to expect. I might breeze through both days and feel like, wow, I've come a long way, and I didn't feel sad. Or I might be super sad. I'm not sure, but I do know it is a tender time. I do get a lot of love my birthday, and I get like phone calls and text messages and Facebook messages, and so thankful for that. Nothing will ever replace my parents not being here for my birthday. You know, if you break it down, birthday is the day you're born. It's the day that you came into the world and that you had someone who was waiting for you to get there. And they were there to sort of take care of you until you could take care of yourself. And I think my parents did a really amazing job helping me to be an independent woman really young. My mom used to tell the story of how when I was 5 and I was getting on the bus for kindergarten, I was like, "See you later, Mom," and my mom was the one who was crying, and I was like, I couldn't wait to get on the bus. And I guess that's kind of been the way it's been. I've been a traveler. I travel a lot. I cannot wait to figure out how much I've traveled, even in just the past year. I guarantee you it's going to be around the globe, like in mileage, because I've just been all over the place this year. But my parents taught me really young that, you know, traveling is a positive thing. They traveled. We traveled together. Some of the most important times of traveling was putting me up on a plane and sending me to visit my aunt and my cousins in Texas. I believe I was 10. I think I did it again when I was 12. And from that point on, my parents let me go into New York City by myself. And I lived in New Jersey, and I grew up in New Jersey. And so I was just like a train ride away, and I had a lot of individual, independent experiences where I felt very comfortable being on my own. So that's part of what I bring to the table here is a comfort level surrounding, and you might be in a different place. You might not feel as independent, or maybe you do. Maybe you'd like to get to a place of independence. But, you know, and part of it is kind of accepting that ultimately we are born into the world not alone, because I think that doesn't sound quite right, but we are born into the world in this body, and we go in this body. And we're here on the planet, and we thank God we have people to connect with while we're here, because it'd be really boring if we didn't. And I'm very thankful for all of my connections and all the people that I have had in my life and do have in my life. And I think about that sometimes. I think about being alone, and that's different than feeling lonely. I think feeling lonely is when you are trying to access something you don't have and you're feeling lack, versus being alone, like physically alone. It's like you're recognizing that you are taking responsibility for yourself in that moment and not seeking outside of yourself. So what do you need to do to feel more independent? That is a question I'm posing to you. To feel safe. What can you control? That's going to be a reoccurring conversation that I continue to bring up, because it's going to be a stability for you as you continue on. You cannot depend on other people to give you or provide you anything. You can ask for it, but you kind of might be setting yourself up for some challenges, some disappointments, some misalignments, and misunderstandings. So what can you do to circle back to yourself and bring yourself into a place of being an independent person? Because you have to be your best friend. When your parents leave this earth, you have to promise yourself that you're going to be your best friend, that you're going to be there for you. And what does that mean? That could mean a lot of things. That could mean, visiting people who you know want to see you and starting to release the people who are angry in your life. Maybe it's time to release the people who try and make you feel bad or shame you, or shame other people, and just let them be in their world. Maybe it's time to release people who are unconscious. And what does unconscious mean? It means not turned on. They're not aware. They're not awake. They are asleep at the wheel of life, and they're not living their life in love. They're living their life in fear. And maybe if you're having some problems in your life, or you have people who are causing drama, you may want to take a step back, because this is a time of healing, and it's always going to be a time of healing. And in order to take care of yourself, you have to know that sometimes people are just not in a healthy state. And if you want to be in a healthy state and you want to get back to a healthy state and then get back to joy and get back to happiness, you have to know that you can't be surrounded by people who have no desire for change. People who have no desire to know themselves deeply. People who have no desire to take responsibility and who blame others. Blame, shame, guilt. I think everybody has some of that, but if you want to heal, you have to awaken. You have to make the conscious decision to turn the light on, to turn the switch up, to turn the knob up a couple notches, and awaken. And know that by doing this, everything else in your life is going to become more clear than you ever could realize. If you know what I'm talking about, then you know what I'm talking about. If you do not know what I'm talking about, I'm going to try and explain it. We'll see what happens here. So maybe when the light is off, when you're not aware, you get mad easily, and in thinking to yourself, how did I get myself here? You're thinking, what did people do to me? Why did they do that thing to me? And being in a victim state versus in a state of presence. There's a triangle that I learned about in a workshop, And I don't know the exact name of the triangle, but I can associate it with being sort of called the drama triangle. And on that triangle is villain, victim, hero. Very simple. Villain's the bad guy, the hero wants to save others, and the victim is, everyone's doing stuff to me. So the drama triangle, and that triangle that feels really stressful, is when you're standing on one of those sides, either by yourself or with others. So, for instance, sometimes you might want to help out somebody who is playing the victim in something, and you might find yourself playing a hero role in a particular scenario. Saying yes to everything or saying yes too much is trying to be a hero. You're trying to be a hero to others, standing on the victim side and identifying it with it is, thinking everyone is doing this to me and the world is doing this to me and I am not responsible at all. And the villain is someone who, this one kind of trips me up a little bit, like the villain. So if I'm the victim, then someone must be the villain, right? The other person must be the villain. The person is doing the thing to it, other people. You might play the villain if you're, I don't know, maybe you like to play nasty tricks on people or something. I don't know. That one actually trips me up a little bit. I try to verbalize it. I'm not quite exactly sure what the best way is, but very conscious of that triangle and the dynamics that are created when you're standing on the triangle. And so if you want peace in your life, including just peace with losing your parents, you have to be present and you have to step out of that triangle and step into it. Where are you being the victim? Where are you being the villain? Where are you being the hero? Your roles as a son or daughter change when you lose a parent. And I'm actually listening to Wild by Cheryl Strayed from Lost to Found on the Pacific Crest Trail, which is a really cool book, and I've been wanting to read it for a while, and I actually have the book in my hands, but I've been driving around and I wanted to listen to it, and I really like listening to audiobooks. And I was wondering if any of you would like to go on this journey with me. I just started it. If you don't know this book, it is a New York Times bestseller. It is a story about a young woman whose mother died, and she had a lot of transitional challenges with her mother's death and really lost herself. And I can identify with this. When my dad died, I didn't feel like I was me anymore. I didn't even know who I was. And the relationship that I was in at the time really suffered. And so did her relationship with her partner. And she goes on a trip up the Pacific Crest Trail by herself, hiking as an inexperienced hiker and trying to find herself. And I would love to go on this journey with you if anybody wants to listen to it or read it along with me. She just started the trail, and that's where I'm at right now, and her mom has died. And I'd love to have a conversation with you about this because I think Cheryl Strayed is somebody who has really taken into account being present and taken responsibility of her own healing and her own journey in her grief. She suffered for about 4 years, a little over 4 years, with her grief of her mother and really not knowing what to do with that grief and put it into negative things and things that were not healthy for her. And this is one of the things that can happen when you lose a parent is this hole in your heart. You want to fill it with things. So in Cheryl's case, she filled it with sexual relationships outside of her marriage and heroin. And those are two very extreme cases. But there are other things that I think those of us who have lost parents have filled the hole in our heart with other things. It may not necessarily be sexual relationships and heroin, but it could be other things like food, other kinds of drugs, other kinds of negative behavior that are not helpful for our forward movement. And Cheryl Strayed, who actually lives in Portland, Oregon, where we live now, we were able to go to a talk that she was at, and where she read a little bit from Wild and some other books that she's written and answered questions from the audience about her experience. And there's a movie coming out starring Reese Witherspoon that's going to be coming out soon, and it's basically the entire story. And Cheryl Strayed is a great example of someone I know has come out on the other side of grief with much more knowledge and empowerment inside herself than she did before she decided to take the journey. And I'm not saying you need to hike up the Pacific Crest Trail, but what you need to do if you want to heal your heart is you need to hike up your own Pacific Crest Trail. You need to, if you want to, no one's forcing you, but if you have the desire to heal and move forward in your life past sadness and grief and disappointment and all of the confusing feelings that happen when you lose your parents, you need to do an emotional hike and put your hiking boots on and get your gear together. And the gear that you are getting together is your hiking pack, your emotional hiking pack. And this show and my blog and all of the other resources out there are part of this experience of healing. And there's a ton of things out there that I hope help you on your journey, and I hope that this is a piece of that puzzle. I'm just going to read a little bit. I'm just going to read the back of Cheryl's book here. At 22, Cheryl Strayed thought she had lost everything. In the wake of her mother's death, her family scattered and her own marriage was soon destroyed. 4 years later, with nothing more to lose, she made the most impulsive decision of her life. With no experience or training, driven only by blind will, she would hike more than 1,000 miles of the Pacific Crest Trail from the Mojave Desert through California and Oregon to Washington State, and she would do it alone. Told with suspense and style, sparkling with warmth and humor, Wild powerfully captures the terrors of one young woman forging ahead against all odds on a journey that maddened, strengthened, and ultimately healed her. So I'm really excited because this book and the audiobook I'm listening to is in direct connection with what I want from the world. And what I want from the world is those of us who have lost parents is to get to the other side of the bridge. And what does that mean? That means get to the other side of this grief that you're feeling. I really appreciate you listening today. It was really a joy to actually just sit here and talk to you. And I honestly didn't know what I was going to talk about, but it just talked through me. So I'm excited about that. I have my blog, losingyourparents.org. Please feel free to subscribe to the blog and receive emails when a new blog is released. You can subscribe to this radio show, blogtalkradio.com/losingyourparents. My YouTube channel, you can find under Losing Your Parents, and I'm available on Twitter at Losing Parents. Thanks so much.